The story starts with a slow pan over the bustling docks of a small coastal town called Greywater Haven. Fishing boats line the harbor, but all eyes are drawn to an old, rusting research vessel named the Midnight Warden. It's the kind of ship that looks like it's seen one hurricane too many and somehow survived barely. The faint smell of fish and engine oil lingers in the air, while seagulls bicker loudly overhead. Enter the crew. Theo, the captain. Late 40s, laid back to the point of questionable leadership. He lives by the motto, "Why stress today about what can go wrong tomorrow?" and has a love-hate relationship with caffeine. Nina, the marine biologist. She's brilliant but a bit of a dreamer, often found talking to herself or to the sea creatures she's studying. Eddie, the mechanic. A grizzled old-timer with a soft spot for bad jokes and fixing things with duct tape and optimism. Will, the intern. Fresh out of university and still trying to figure out why he signed up for this. Think awkward, full of ideas, and perpetually covered in grease from misreading Eddie's instructions. The plot kicks off with Nina discovering something unusual in satellite scans, an underwater trench that seems too perfect. The shape resembles a spiral, and it's emitting strange sonar signals. She bursts into the captain's cabin, waving the printouts like they're treasure maps. "Theo, you won't believe this. It's incredible. The trench is too symmetrical to be natural. It could be ancient ruins." Nina's eyes are gleaming with excitement. Theo, sipping his third cup of coffee, raises an eyebrow. "Ancient ruins, huh? Last time you said that we found a rock shaped like a shoe." "This is different," Nina insists. "The signals, it's like they're calling to something." Despite Theo's skepticism, the promise of discovery and potential funding convinces him to set sail. The crew packs up their gear, and after a couple of days of arguing with Eddie about the state of the engine, she'll hold together just fine, Captain. Probably. They arrive at the trench. The scene shifts to the dive. Nina leads the expedition, with Will nervously tagging along. They descend into the depths in a creaky old submersible that Eddie patched up the night before. Nina jokingly christens it the Tin Can. The deeper they go, the darker it gets. Shadows flicker across the sub's lights, and strange shapes loom just out of reach. Will, gripping his armrests like they're the only thing keeping him alive, blurts out, "So, anyone else feeling like we're starring in the prequel to a horror movie?" Nina rolls her eyes. "Relax, Will. We're perfectly safe." At that exact moment, the submersible shudders violently. The lights flicker and the sonar goes haywire. A deep, resonant hum fills the cabin like a voice, just on the edge of comprehension. The tin can stabilizes, and the lights reveal something extraordinary. A sprawling underwater city, glowing faintly with bioluminescent algae. Towering spires reach upward, and strange carvings decorate the walls. Nina stares in awe. This is it. Proof of a lost civilization. Will points at the carvings. Those symbols, they look like eyes. Why do they all look like they're staring at us? As they explore the ruins, the hum grows louder, almost rhythmic. Nina finds a central chamber, dominated by a massive stone tablet. When she approaches, the hum abruptly stops. "That's not ominous at all," Will mutters. Nina touches the tablet, and a soft blue light spreads across its surface. Symbols rearrange themselves into what looks like a map. Theo's voice crackles over the radio. "Hey, Tin Can, you okay down there? You've been quiet for a while." Nina responds, "We're fine, I think. We found something." "Sending you the images now." But before she can, the tablet emits a pulse of light, and the submersible systems shut down. The cabin goes dark, save for the faint glow of the ruins outside. The crew manages to haul the submersible back to the surface. Nina and Will clamber out, drenched and shaken, but alive. Eddie is waiting with a grin. "You broke the tin can already?" "I give it 2 divies tops." Nina ignores him and holds up a waterproof tablet with images of the ruins. "Look at this. The carvings, they're like coordinates. I think they're leading to something deeper." Theo sighs. "Deeper?" "Nina, we barely made it out of there alive. Come on, Theo. We can't stop now. This could change everything," Nina pleads. Will chimes in. "Plus, didn't anyone else hear that voice? Like it was trying to say something?" Theo rubs his temples. "Great. Now the intern's hearing voices. All right, fine. We'll go deeper. But if I die, I'm haunting you all." As the Midnight Warden heads back toward the trench, the strange hum returns, this time emanating from the ship itself. Objects start moving on their own, and the crew realizes the artifact wasn't just a discovery. It was a signal. The final shot is of the ship's radar, showing an enormous shape rising from the depths, heading straight for them. The Midnight Warden cuts through eerily calm waters under a starless sky. The tension on board is thick enough to slice with a knife. Theo is at the helm, sipping what must be his 10th cup of coffee for the day. This one spiked with just enough rum to take the edge off. He mutters under his breath, "I knew I should have retired early. Open a beach bar," they said. No ancient curses, no glowing ruins. Below deck, Nina is poring over her notes with an almost obsessive focus. Her walls are now plastered with diagrams, sonar maps, and sketches of the carvings they found. She's muttering to herself. It's a language. It has to be. Maybe it's a warning. Or a greeting? Probably both. Meanwhile, Eddie is in the engine room, humming a blues tune as he tinkers with the patched-up submersible, still fondly called the Tin Can. Hold together, girl. We're counting on you for round 2. Will hovers nearby, still clutching a granola bar he's been too stressed to eat. "You really think this is a good idea, Eddie?" I mean, there was humming and glowing. Glowing is never good. Eddie chuckles. "Kid, if glowing was the worst thing about this job, I'd be retired on a yacht by now." At dawn, the crew gathers around the table in the cramped galley. Theo spreads out a map with scribbled notes from Nina. "All right, team, here's the deal. We head back down to the trench, follow the coordinates Nina's carvings gave us, and see where they lead. But, and this is important, we're taking no artifacts this time. No touching, no poking, no pocketing glowing rocks, Nina." Nina rolls her eyes. "One time, Theo, one time." Will raises a hand. Not to be that guy, but what do we do if the glowing people come back? Or, something worse." Theo gives him a deadpan look. "Simple. We run." The tin can is prepped and ready. This time, it's just Nina and Theo in the submersible, with Eddie and Will monitoring from the ship. As they descend, the water grows darker and colder. The faint hum returns like a distant heartbeat. "Still just a greeting, right?" Theo quips, trying to hide his unease. Nina's eyes are glued to the sonar. "We're close. The coordinates should lead us to..." "There." She points to a massive structure looming in the distance. It's a dome-like building, covered in glowing runes and surrounded by enormous statues that look unsettlingly lifelike. As they approach, the hum intensifies, and the runes on the dome begin to shift, rearranging themselves into a pattern. Nina's excitement is palpable. It's a gateway. "I think it's opening." Theo, less thrilled, mutters, "Yeah, opening to what? Exactly?" The dome cracks open with a low rumble, revealing a dark tunnel that seems to lead straight into the heart of the ruins. Theo hesitates. "All right, this is officially beyond my pay grade." But before they can decide whether to proceed, a current pulls the tin can into the tunnel. Lights flicker as they're swept deeper into the abyss, and strange symbols flash across the sub's controls. Nina frantically tries to interpret them. It's like it's talking to us, giving us instructions. Theo tightens his grip on the controls. Well, tell it to use smaller words and maybe stop dragging us into the void. Eddie and Will are losing their minds as they watch the sub's signals go haywire. The radar shows erratic movements, and the hum can now be heard on the ship itself. Objects begin to shift unnaturally, wrenches sliding across the floor, coffee mugs toppling over. Will, panicking, yells, "This is why I don't trust glowing ruins. What do we do, Eddie?" Eddie calmly lights a cigarette. "Kid, when in doubt, you do the only thing that makes sense." We wait and hope they don't wake up something angry. Inside the tunnel, the tin can comes to a sudden stop. They're in a massive chamber, walls lined with carvings that seem to tell a story. Nina takes photos while deciphering out loud. It's a prophecy. Something about the Watchers of the Deep. They protected the balance between light and darkness. But then there was a betrayal, and they were imprisoned. Theo stares at a carving of a giant creature with glowing eyes. And let me guess, this imprisonment wasn't a forever kind of deal. Before Nina can answer, the chamber begins to shake. The carvings start glowing brighter, and the hum transforms into a deafening roar. Something massive stirs in the shadows. Nina's eyes widen. "Theo, I think we just woke up the Watchers." Theo sighs. Of course we did. Because why wouldn't we? Back on the surface, Eddie and Will spot something massive rising from the trench. A silhouette of a creature, its glowing eyes piercing through the water. Eddie takes a long drag of his cigarette. "Well, kid, looks like we might want to start praying." The radar is going berserk, showing something massive moving beneath the ship. Water churns unnaturally, and glowing streaks illuminate the waves as though something ancient and angry is surfacing. Eddie grips the railing, watching the glow intensify beneath the waves. Well, that's definitely not a whale. Unless whales started glowing and got a lot more bitey. Will, scrambling around trying to pack snacks into a backpack, priorities, stammers. What do we even do if that thing comes up here? Do we fight it? Hide? Do I sacrifice something? What's the protocol for glowing sea monsters? Eddie looks at him with a deadpan expression. Protocol? Kid, we're already in uncharted territory. Just don't annoy it, or me. Meanwhile, down in the tin can, Theo and Nina are frozen in stunned silence. The massive chamber shakes violently as a colossal figure emerges from the shadows. Its body glows faintly, etched with bioluminescent patterns, and its eyes, huge and otherworldly, lock onto the submersible. Theo groans. "I don't suppose it's smiling at us, huh?" Nina, equally terrified and fascinated, starts snapping photos like a tourist at an alien safari. "Theo, do you realize what this is?" It's one of the Watchers. It has to be. Look at the carvings on its skin. Those are the same symbols from the ruins." The creature doesn't attack. Instead, it extends one massive arm and points toward the sub, then toward the now fully open gateway behind them. Nina's eyes widen. I think it wants us to follow." Theo, clutching the controls like his life depends on it, which, to be fair, it does, shakes his head. "Yeah, nope, hard pass. I don't follow glowing giants into creepy tunnels." But before he can turn the tin can around, the Watcher emits a low hum that shakes the sub, then slowly swims toward the gateway, leaving a faint trail of glowing runes in its wake. Nina's curiosity wins out. "We have to go after it, Theo. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." Theo mutters under his breath, "Why does every discovery of a lifetime feel like it's going to kill me?" On the ship, Eddie and Will are trying to keep things together as the glowing creature from the depths starts to surface. It's massive, easily the size of a small skyscraper, and as it breaks through the waves, it lets out an eerie, resonating call that seems to echo through every bone in their bodies. Will screams, dropping his snack stash. We're doomed. This is it. Game over, man. Game over. Eddie calmly lights another cigarette. Relax, kid. It hasn't eaten us yet. The creature doesn't attack the ship, but instead seems to study it, tilting its head and blinking slowly. Then, to everyone's surprise, it lowers itself back into the water, disappearing beneath the surface. Eddie shakes his head. See? Told you. We're just the warm-up act. Whatever it's really after, it ain't us. Back in the tin can, Nina and Theo follow the Watcher through the glowing tunnel, which leads to another massive chamber, this one filled with floating, holographic symbols. The symbols seem to shift and rearrange as they approach, forming what looks like a map of the trench, with a glowing beacon in its center. Nina gasps. It's leading us somewhere. This isn't just a ruin. It's a whole network, a city. Theo points at the beacon. And that's the throne room, I'm guessing. Or the control panel, or the giant monster zoo. Either way, I don't like where this is going. Suddenly, the Watcher emits another hum, and the symbols around them change, showing an image of the surface. More specifically, the Midnight Warden. Theo and Nina exchange a nervous glance. Nina whispers, I think it knows about the others. As the tin can heads back to the surface, the Watcher disappears into the shadows, leaving behind a glowing trail that seems to pulse like a heartbeat. Back on the ship, Theo and Nina scramble out of the sub, breathless. Eddie raises an eyebrow. So, did you find Atlantis, or did Atlantis find you? Nina doesn't answer. She pulls out her tablet, showing Eddie and Will the images of the glowing map. This isn't just a ruin, it's a command center. And that creature, it wasn't attacking us. It was guiding us. Will, still shaking, mutters, guiding us where? To certain doom? Because it feels like certain doom. Before Nina can explain further, the ship's radio crackles to life with static. Then, through the noise, a deep, guttural voice speaks in a language none of them recognize. The glowing runes begin to appear on the ship itself, spreading like vines across the hull. Eddie takes a long drag of his cigarette. Well, that's new. The camera pans out, showing the Midnight Warden surrounded by glowing waves, the runes spreading faster and faster. The voice from the radio grows louder, almost urgent, as if it's trying to convey a warning or a command. In the distance, more shapes begin to rise from the trench. Not one, not two, but dozens of glowing figures, their eyes locked on the ship. The Midnight Warden floats ominously in the calm waters above the trench. The glowing runes have spread across its hull like vines, illuminating the ship in an eerie light that casts flickering shadows on the crew. The strange voice continues to crackle through the ship's radio, growing louder and more urgent. It sounds like a warning, but in a language no one understands. Theo stares at the runes with a mix of fascination and dread. Anyone else feel like we're officially past the point of no return? Will, pacing in circles and clutching his favorite backpack, mutters, I'm just saying. Glowing runes, giant sea monsters, mysterious voices? This is textbook doom. Doom. We should be swimming in the opposite direction. Eddie, ever the realist, responds without looking up from his half-finished coffee. Kid, we're already knee-deep in this mess. Best we figure out what these glowing nightmares want before they decide we're the main course. Nina is back in the submersible, determined to make sense of the carvings and symbols from the ruins. Theo reluctantly joins her, muttering, Why is it always me who gets dragged into these things? I could be sipping margaritas somewhere right now. As they descend once more into the depths, the hum returns, resonating through the tin can. But this time, it's different. Less ominous and more rhythmic, almost musical. The symbols around them pulse in time with the sound, forming patterns on the walls of the tunnel. Nina studies the patterns intently. I think it's trying to communicate. Look at the repetition. These aren't random. They're instructions. Theo raises an eyebrow. Instructions for what? How to survive, or how to die dramatically. Suddenly, the sonar picks up multiple signatures ahead. At first, it looks like a swarm of creatures, but as they approach, the figures reveal themselves to be humanoid. They glow faintly and move with purpose, forming a circle around the submersible. Nia gasps. It's them, the Watchers. They're guiding us. Theo grips the controls nervously. Let's just hope they're not guiding us to their dinner table. The Watchers lead them to a new chamber, larger and more intricate than the one before. The walls are covered in glowing carvings, but the centerpiece is a massive structure, a throne-like seat, surrounded by swirling energy. The carvings depict the figures seated on the throne, commanding the ocean itself. Nina's voice is barely a whisper. It's a source of power, a key to controlling the trench and maybe the entire ocean. Theo shakes his head. You always want to control things. Can't we just leave it alone? Before Nina can respond, the Watchers begin to chant, a deep, resonant sound that makes the chamber tremble. Symbols on the throne rearrange themselves, forming what looks like an activation sequence. Nina's curiosity overrides her caution. We have to activate it, Theo. This could unlock everything. Answers to the ruins, the creatures, the trench itself. Theo groans, and probably unleash a giant monster in the process. But hey, why not? Eddie and Will watch from the ship as the trench below begins to glow brighter than ever. The hum is now audible on the surface, vibrating through the deck. Will, practically hyperventilating, yells, "We're all going to die. This is it. The abyss is going to swallow us whole." Eddie calmly flicks his cigarette into the ocean. "Kid, if it happens, at least we'll make the front page of the tabloids." Suddenly, the glowing runes on the ship shift, forming a message in English. The deep calls. Choose. Eddie blinks. Well, that's unsettling. Back in the chamber, Nina completes the sequence on the throne, and the swirling energy intensifies. The Watchers step back, as though in reverence. The throne begins to glow, emitting beams of light that illuminate the entire trench. Theo watches in awe. I'll admit, this is incredible. Terrifying, but incredible. The light reveals a network of tunnels and chambers stretching far beyond the ruins, an entire city hidden beneath the ocean. But before Nina can celebrate, the light shifts, focusing on the largest chamber of all. Inside, something moves. Nina's voice trembles. "Theo, I think we just woke something up." On the surface, the ship's radar goes wild, showing a massive signature rising from the depths. The glowing figures return, surrounding the ship and staring silently at the crew. Eddie looks at Will, smirking slightly. "Well, kid, looks like we're about to find out what the abyss really wants." The Midnight Warden is now barely afloat in the churning waters above the trench. The glowing runes have completely enveloped the ship, pulsating in sync with the deafening hum emanating from the abyss. Eddie grips the railing, unflinching, while Will sits curled up on the deck, muttering his mantra. I knew it. I knew it. We're doomed." The camera pans below the surface, descending into the trench where Theo and Nina are still in the submersible. The colossal figure from the chamber moves toward them, its glowing eyes locking onto the tin can. The light from the creature seems to illuminate the ruins, revealing an entire submerged civilization teeming with watchers, ancient beings that have now awakened. As the watchers gather, the massive central figure begins to emit a roar low and guttural, shaking the water around them. It reverberates all the way up to the surface. Theo clutches the controls of the tin can, shouting over the noise. Any chance we can just, apologize and leave? Nina is transfixed by the massive creature, piecing together its carvings and symbols in her mind. No, it's not just a guardian, it's a judge. These carvings, they're a prophecy about the balance of the ocean, of life itself. And the Watchers were left to decide if humanity is worthy. Theo glares at her. Great. So what's the verdict so far? Before Nina can answer, the massive figure roars again, and the glowing ruins shift. From the carvings emerges a new image, a fractured world split by rising tides. The message is clear. Humanity's actions have disrupted the balance, and now the Watchers are here to correct it. Eddie and Will spot the glowing silhouettes of dozens, no, hundreds of Watchers rising from the depths. The largest figure towers above the waterline, its glowing eyes fixed on the Midnight Warden. Will, on the verge of a meltdown, shouts, "Eddie, do something. I don't know what, but just something." Eddie sighs, flicks his cigarette into the ocean, and mutters, "All right, big guy, let's talk." He picks up the ship's radio and speaks into the static-filled channel. "Hey, glowing friend. We're just humble folks trying to survive out here. No need to smite us or whatever it is you do." To their shock, the voice from the radio shifts, becoming clearer. It's deep and resonant with a strange, unearthly accent. "You have disturbed the deep. The balance is broken. Redemption or destruction. Choose." Eddie raises an eyebrow. Redemption, obviously. Who picks destruction? Will, still panicking, whispers, "Eddie, I think it's gonna make us prove it." The scene cuts back to the tin can, where the Watchers begin to encircle the sub. The colossal figure lowers itself, bringing its massive, glowing eyes level with the submersible. Theo grips the controls tightly. Okay, it's official. This thing definitely wants something from us. Nina stares at the creature, trying to decipher its body language. I think it's waiting, testing us. The creature emits another hum, and suddenly, symbols on the walls of the chamber light up, forming a series of puzzles. Nina's eyes widen. It's a trial. We have to solve these. Riddles or patterns. They're testing if we understand their laws, the balance they're trying to protect. Theo groans. Great. First ancient sea monster is now a pop quiz. The submersible's lights flicker, and the first puzzle appears a glowing grid of symbols that rearrange themselves in random patterns. Nina begins deciphering the grid, her hand shaking slightly as she tries to match the runes to the carvings they've seen. Just as she completes the first puzzle, the Watcher emits a loud hum of approval. But then the chamber begins to shake. A crack forms in the floor, and from the fissure emerges a secondary challenge, this one far more dangerous. A swirling current forms, threatening to suck the sub into the void. Meanwhile, on the surface, the glowing runes on the Midnight Warden shift, and a massive wave rises from the depths, towering over the ship. Eddie shouts, "Hold on to something," as the wave crashes down, nearly capsizing them. Through sheer determination, Eddie and Will manage to stabilize the ship, but the Watchers aren't done. The voice returns on the radio. Restore the balance or face the abyss. Will yells, "How? What does that even mean?" Eddie, staring at the glowing creatures in the water, mutters, "I think it means we have to give something back." Back in the trench, Nina solves the final puzzle just as the submersible teeters on the edge of the current. The chamber erupts in light, and the massive watcher releases a deafening roar. This time, not of anger, but of recognition. The runes on its body shift, forming a single word in their language: harmony. Nina breathes a sigh of relief. They're sparing us. They believe we can fix what we've broken. Theo, still clutching the controls, mutters, "Yeah, well, let's hope they're right." On the surface, the glowing creatures retreat back into the depths, the runes on the ship fading along with them. Eddie looks out at the now calm waters and smirks. "Told you we'd live, kid." Will collapses onto the deck, utterly exhausted. This is not what I signed up for. The tin can resurfaces, and Theo and Nina climb aboard, both looking shaken but alive. Nina holds up her tablet, which now contains the images of the puzzles and the final message from the Watchers. "It's a warning," she says. "They're giving us a chance, but if we don't restore the balance, they'll be back." Theo, staring out at the horizon, takes a deep breath. Guess that means we've got work to do. As the Midnight Warden sails away, the camera pans back to the trench. Deep below the surface, the glowing city remains, but the largest watcher remains vigilant, its eyes scanning the ocean. The final shot shows a fissure forming in the seabed, glowing with an ominous red light. It's early morning on the Midnight Warden, and for once, the seas are calm. The hum from the depths has faded, and the glowing runes on the ship have disappeared entirely. The crew gathers in the galley, bleary-eyed and nursing mugs of coffee, or, in Theo's case, a mix of coffee and regret. The weight of the Watcher's ultimatum hangs over them: restore the balance or face destruction. Eddie leans back in his chair, arms crossed. "So, let me get this straight. The glowing overlords want us to fix the planet? I'm a mechanic, not a miracle worker." Nina, flipping through her notes, responds with a mix of excitement and determination. "It's not about fixing the entire planet. It's about restoring the balance in the trench. The Watchers aren't here to punish humanity. They're here to make sure we don't tip the scales any further." Theo sighs. "Right. Easy peasy. Just reverse centuries of ecological damage and hope the glowy sea gods let us off with a warning." Will raises his hand nervously. Do we even know where to start?" Nina lays out the plan. The carvings in the ruins weren't just warnings, they were instructions. The trench is like a pressure valve for the ocean. Overfishing, mining, pollution, they've thrown the ecosystem out of whack. The Watcher's message pointed to 3 key areas we need to address: the water's purity, the marine life balance, and the trench's seismic activity. Eddie scratches his head. Sounds like a whole lot of work for a small crew on a barely functioning ship. Nina grins. "That's why we're starting with what we can handle, removing the junk we've already dumped into the trench." Theo, set a course. "We're going diving again." Theo groans. "Of course we are." The Midnight Warden anchors above a shallower section of the trench, littered with sunken debris, rusting barrels, fishing nets, and a surprising number of tires. Nina and Eddie suit up for the dive, while Theo stays topside to oversee operations and loudly complain about everything. Underwater, the scene is both eerie and infuriating. Schools of fish weave through the rusting barrels, while strange, luminescent plants grow out of old car frames. Eddie mutters through the cums. "It's like a scrapyard down here. Who dumps this much junk into the ocean?" Nina spots a cluster of barrels leaking an ominous, greenish substance into the water. "Over here. These chemicals could be causing serious damage to the ecosystem. We need to get them out." Using a combination of winches and Eddie's ingenuity, Reed, duct tape, and optimism, the crew hauls the barrels to the surface. As the last barrel is removed, the water around them begins to clear, and a faint melodic hum resonates through the trench. Nina smiles. That's one step toward balance. Back on the ship, Nina explains the next step. The Watchers showed us that the trench used to be a thriving ecosystem, but overfishing and destruction have wiped out a lot of key species. We need to help reintroduce them. Eddie raises an eyebrow. You're suggesting we play matchmaker for fish? Nina smirks. Exactly. The crew works with local marine biologists to source coral fragments, juvenile fish, and even a few sea turtles. They release the marine life into the trench, carefully monitoring how the creatures adapt. Will, watching a turtle swim away, smiles for the first time in days. Maybe we're not totally hopeless after all. The final and most dangerous step involves the trench's seismic activity. Nina explains. The carvings indicated that the trench's natural vents have been blocked by human interference. Mining operations, drilling, you name it. We need to clear those vents to release the pressure. Theo sighs. Let me guess. This involves another terrifying dive? Nina nods. And explosives. The crew rigs controlled charges to clear the blocked vents, with Eddie overseeing the operation from the submersible. As the charges detonate, the water around the trench erupts in streams of bubbles and thermal currents. The hum from the ruins grows louder, and the glowing Watchers return, their eyes fixed on the crew. For a moment, everything is still. Then, the trench begins to glow a soft, steady light that pulses with life. The Watchers emit a low, harmonious hum, and one of them approaches the Midnight Warden. The voice from the radio returns, clear and resonant. Balance begins. Your actions are seen. Theo, standing on the deck, raises his coffee mug. You're welcome, glowing friends. Try not to break anything while we're gone. As the Midnight Warden sails away from the trench, the crew reflects on what they've accomplished. The ocean feels calmer, and the once ominous hum has become a gentle melody. Nina stares out at the water, her voice filled with hope. We've done our part. It's not everything, but it's a start. Eddie chuckles. Well, if the glowing sea gods decide to visit again, they know where to find us. Will, munching on a granola bar, grins. Next time, can we save the world without risking our lives? Theo smirks. Where's the fun in that? The camera lingers on the calm ocean as the Midnight Warden disappears into the horizon. For now, the balance has been restored, and the abyss remains quiet.